Hello and welcome. This video is about the stress response. And why am I talking to you about the stress response? The stress response, or otherwise called fight, flight, freeze, is one of the foremost reasons that we often do not act in alignment with our values and instead act in ways we later regret. The stress response, or fight, flight, freeze, response is the emergency reaction system of the body. It's there to keep you safe in emergencies. The stress response includes physical and thought responses to your perception of various situations. When the stress response is triggered, we no longer are in conscious control. We have difficulty thinking clearly and sequentially. We're flooded with thoughts as to who is right and wrong and who deserves punishment. We go onto autopilot produced by our habitual patterns of thought, patterns that often that we first began to develop as a result of adverse childhood experiences, or ACE, adverse childhood experiences. And these habits continue into our adulthood, even though they result in our often acting in ways that we later regret. We can be triggered into the stress response whether we observe whenever we perceive our well-being to be challenged. And that's whether it's physical well-being, like the proverbial lion on the African savanna attacking, or some emotional example, like when others are evaluating our work, we are believing our ideas are not being listened to, and thoughts that you may have that someone is seeking to undermine or criticize you. And we can even be triggered into the stress response by thoughts that judge and criticize ourselves. And of course, anxious thoughts about an upcoming event can also trigger us. Fight, flight, freeze, and the stress response are in the older parts of the brain, and they take over, and the body releases adrenaline, cortisol, other stress hormones. We begin to have literal tunnel vision. We begin sweating and paling, or by contrast, flushing. Our heart rate increases. We no longer think sequentially, and there's a whole list of other things that can result from the stress response. This results in less access to the parts of our brain that evaluate whether the actions are in alignment with our values. Early humans evolved the stress response over hundreds of thousands of years. And the stress response serves as us humans well when we're being menaced by a lion on the African savanna, but not so well when we're being triggered through our days by perceived slights and insults. So what can we do about this? Because unless you inhibit the release of these stress hormones, we're likely to continue to act in ways that we regret, which are not in alignment with our values. Many strategies to deal with the stress response, and they include exercise, meditation, contemplation, prayer, saunas or hot tubs followed by cold plunges. In this work, I offer a map called the self-connection process, because it can be used when we are in the midst of challenge, whereas these other strategies, not so much. This concludes this lesson on the stress response. Thank you for your time and attention.